The next speaker comes from Munich. Was on the same flight with me. Mr. Johannes Kappen, he comes from PTS in Munich. He has a degree in process engineering, and I have to look up the title of his presentation. God, the future quality of paper for recycling and its impacts on paper sorting and paper making. So it was such a long title I couldn't remember that. And we're done? Ready to go?
Excuse for the long title. I will try to make it, well, if not a short, at least some interesting story. We haven't been part of the project, but I think the contents of the presentation may complement the work that has been done within the project, and will provide some numbers around about the discussions that have been ongoing today. To start with, I would like to look into the future. Some already did, and you will find data that you may know already, but we're trying to interpret them in terms of the impact they have on quality, then look at options you may have to counteract, to adapt, and then I will spare some words on the sorting of paper for recycling and how that may evolve over time. Well, a look into the future and the quality. We are talking about the quality of paper for recycling, we have to bear in mind that we're ultimately, well, at first talking not on a fixed mixture, but it is composed out of the products that we all use, or the products that have been produced, and it ends ultimately up in a stock with some properties that are composed and can be traced, so to say, back the chain here from the stock and its properties back into the paper products that have been produced. So it is important to bear that in mind, and if you try to predict the impact of quality, you have to have a certain quantitative relation between the two, or the three stages. So let's start with the values, or the volumes, the volumes, and we all know these trends and they are significant. The reduction of newsprint being produced and used for especially, this is the use of newsprint in various areas, and we can see that the consumption has significantly been reduced in the US. We know all about this, and as well this is true for Europe, and we're underway in that development, and the production volumes have been reacting on this. We've seen the trend similar in the US and in Europe on an average. We can see that Germany is still lagging behind, still producing quite a lot of newsprint, but that is already undergoing a change. And if we look further into the detail and look at the grade structure, and that is more important towards the quality of paper for recycling, we can see that there is an even more drastic trend, a change from the packaging papers take over, and the graphical paper is being reduced, and this trend is even stronger here in Germany compared to Europe and the United States, but similar in all of these regions. So what the drivers behind that are quite clear. I won't go into that too very much detail, and you can see that it will be ongoing probably for quite some years. So we made a prediction on how the volume, and there we look at Germany, the volume of packaging paper, the volume of graphical paper will evolve over time. It is quite similar to what McKinsey and other companies have predicted, and it's quite obvious if you just take the trends as they are and try to further calculate that into the future. Most important is that it is not individual grades independently acting from each other. We have to bear in mind that we are operating in a cascading system. So the fibers entering on the graphical side as virgin fibers are used in the graphical paper loop to some part, and then are being handed over to the packaging loop, which is operating then with whatever it gets, the rest of it, and some of the fibers is diverted into technical and sanitary papers and not being reused, at least to the most part. So there is an interconnection between the subsystems, and we have to, as I said, bear that in mind. So there is quite a significance of the relation of graphical paper versus packaging paper towards the quality that paper mills will be producing with. And you can see that we predict that there will be still an ongoing significant change of these relations in the next years. And so that has to be kept in mind. And the question is now, what does it mean in terms of the quality of paper for recycling? And if you would like to address this, it is most important to understand that paper for recycling is not a monodimensional thing. It's not a grade. A grade is not a single number. It's a multidimensional system we're working with if we address paper for recycling. And this is just from a sorting campaign in a sorting paper sorting mill, which we have conducted recently. I just took the picture in order to show the fractions that we'll separate the paper into the grade in order to identify the components. And if you look then on the impact and try to calculate that, we have built a model of Germany, and it is not only a model of the volumes but also a model of the paper qualities, so it's predicting qualities as well as volumes. You can see that there will be a certain change in the composition of the paper that is going into the graphical side. So this is the 111. Only part of this trend will be, we'll see in the mills. We won't see the packaging part because that will be sorted out prior to the use in the mills. We should see on a long-term perspective a stronger decrease in use compared to magazines, although I have to admit the last 12 months we've seen the contrary. So again, an increase of news against magazines with a sharp decline of the drinkability of the material, which is bothering us. So it's not quite clear that it all goes on in a linear fashion, but at least there is some impacts that you can predict on the quality. It is not too much regarding the 111, but it clearly will be traced in the mills. And if you look at data from Ingede, you can see that this trend of increasing ash content, at least on a longer term perspective, has been ongoing for some years now, and may even go on further into the future. We have seen that the quality is deteriorating, and we will probably see that this will as well be ongoing for the next years, as we've seen that the amount of waste arisings that are, well, just the reaction on the decreased quality of the stock is increasing over the last years, as mills can't compensate for the low quality anymore with other measures. We've talked a little about the graphical paper side. Now for the packaging, the story is kind of different. The composition will change far more drastically. So less graphical paper in the stock that they will be provided with, which means they virtually won't get any fresh fibers anymore, because the graphical paper is the only ventilation, or how do you say, the only fresh fiber that is introduced into the system, more or less, and there's just a little, and there's this increase of packaging, which is just the counterpart of it, and so we will have a significant change in the strength properties, if not counteracted else. So this is quite significant, and we'll see this. We already see this trend in the mills and the problems that they have. There will be an impact as well on the ash content. This is the predictive value for the ash content of the stock of paper for recycling, which will be used in the paper mills. It's an average between the 104 and the 102 as a grade. And we will have in total an increase of the utilization rate within Germany and Europe that will, well, get into a critical region, I would say, as we've seen that we see difficulties with more than 80%. That was a prediction that this would cause significant difficulties. Are we at the limit? Is this the only problem that we're faced with? There's one, Mikhail, you may excuse me if I take this example. Mills try to counteract, try to find an alternative stock, try to increase the volume, the specific volume of their products, for example, increase properties, use alternative sources for fibers or at least biogenic material. And up to now, nobody really knows what will happen with our stock if these raw materials like, well, nutshells, straw, husk, we're doing trials ourselves and mills do them on full scale, will result in a changing composition of the stock in total. And in addition to that, we will see that the contaminants of paper for recycling will be on the focus. So mineral oil is one, but I asked my colleagues who are deeply involved in these subjects which will be the next ones, and the first four they told me should be kept in mind for the next years. So well, this is something we probably have to address if we want or not. Question is, do we have any options? What has to be done, or what are paper mills currently doing? One interesting thing is the pulp prices. They are not rising. They are, so there are big capacities in South America built, and cheap pulp is shipped to Europe, being sold at a low price. And this pulp, well, helps in that sense that it is fresh fiber transferred into our system. On the other hand, it is short fiber, so it doesn't help for the strength, but at least it is some option. Another option which German paper mills at least have taken is to buy kraft grades for recycling in the US, and in that way try to improve the stock that they use in their mills. So that is one option. And the other option may even be to convert the conventional way we sort paper towards improved packaging grades. And if you look at the margin for sorting, then this margin is quite significant for the 111 compared to the incoming material. But if you compare that for the 104, so the packaging grade, there at some point it even would make sense to produce this packaging grade, because there was nearly the same margin for packaging grades compared to graphical grades. But well, the story went on, and it's different now. So it doesn't really, from a point of somebody operating a sorting plant up to now, make sense to produce a high quality paper for packaging grades, because the value, the added value of that is too low. Right, so If that is not the case, are there other options to react? And I would like now to look a little more into what will be the impact on paper sorters and how they could react on it. So this is the incoming material in Spain last summer, and you can see out of that you should sort a graphical material and produce a nice graphical paper out. And what you can see is board, board, board. So that is, in fact, the trend already that we may see also in Central Europe, significantly, well, underway in Spain already. And if you see what the impact will be on paper sorting, margins for the sorting of paper will decrease significantly. So the business of sorting paper will not be profitable anymore within a few years. That is the impact just of what they get into the sorting plant. And as you have seen, the only revenue they have is the 111. If you get in nothing or less material that you can later on sell as 111, then the total margin of the profits of the recycler are being reduced. So and even they have to bale more material, which is driving the energy costs. So to produce the same amount of the grade 111 within a sorting plant, they have to process more material, have to buy more material, and won't be able to sell more, but have to bale more material. So that is not a good option for them. One aspect could be to increase the productivity of these sorting plants, and you can see this is just a picture of a sorting plant from left to right with the screens and the optical units, and then the finished product is then transferred to the another hall. And one of the problems they are confronted with is a very high variability of the incoming stock. So they virtually don't know what is coming. And they may, they may have an idea, depending on the region. We've talked about if the material comes from cities or from rural areas. There might be differences that they may know in advance, but at least, but they don't have any quantitative measure. This project I will tell you about, which is just finishing, is about then measuring the incoming material in order to really trace and identify the quality and support then the task of sorting. And it is an online measurement combined with a model-based calculation. The fractions of paper for recycling are measured. The humidity is measured. The mass flow, the incoming mass flow is measured. The size distribution of the objects is measured, and recommendations are then provided to the operator. You can see here the incoming material and some of the parameters. So there is large packaging papers, smaller packaging papers. There the inking fraction is shown, and then you can see the humidity. So that gives a quantitative information about the incoming material, and then you can, based upon that, start operating your sorting plant in a more efficient way. And so it's a sensor that is model enhanced. It has, underneath there are 14 fractions of paper for recycling identified. Then there is this prediction of the size distribution, then a calculation of the flows within the sorting plant, and that helps really to provide to better operate the sorting plant. And the operators that have been testing out that equipment were quite positively impressed about the options and could speed up the sorting plant as such. Another option you would have, and that may be also something that is of interest for the paper mill, is to install a similar sensor than on the outcoming material, so to provide a 100% control of the quality of paper for recycling to the paper mill, which would then have a certified quality that they could use with all the benefits that are implied. Well, some other sorting targets could be, at some point, if the value of paper for recycling for packaging is increased, then to sort it alike, and maybe also the sorting of other grades that may be of higher value compared to the 111. So just to finalize my talk, we are quite convinced that the quality of paper for recycling will change significantly within the next years, and paper makers as well as sorting companies, waste management companies have to adapt to that and see what they can do to arrange with the new setup, and it is significant changes that will see, and measures should be taken in order to compensate for well, some losses, and see whether you can transfer that into options. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kappen. Questions? Yes.
Michiel Adriaatse, Competence Center Paper and Board. Thanks very much for the overview. I think it's really interesting to see what PTS is already doing to look at how to change the composition of the incoming paper and how to change it to really come with the good quality into the paper mills. In the second half of your presentation, you came with the suggestion to add some additional fibers, either kraft fibers or annual fibers. Instead of adding fibers to the mix to change the composition, have you also thought or researched removing fractions of the current fiber mix to get to a higher quality level?
Definitely, yes. So that was not really giving a suggestion, that was just tracing what is the reaction within the market. So kraft paper is bought by the companies, and they are trying to get hold of other alternative fibers. But talking about other options, we have looked at sorting out in dry state some fractions of the paper for recycling in order to improve the quality. And we've also looked at for example, flotation processes in order to reduce the ash content in pulp of packaging mills, things like that. So there are, there are many options that you have. The problem is that, well, at some point the economic thing has to arrange. But yes, we're doing things like that.
More questions?
Johannes, do you think that the ash content will increase even due to the fact that the share of packaging will increase?
Yes, the packaging itself is, so to say, a closed loop. So there is no impact of that on the ash content, as it is recycled by more or less 100%. And as long as we don't have an ash sink there, there doesn't change anything. But the decisive thing is what comes into that loop. And if the incoming material is having more ash, then there will be more ash in the packaging loop. And the only thing that could counteract that is that the trend that we see since 12 months really is a stable trend, and that magazines will decrease, and newsprint will be the winner. Then we won't see those trends at all.
So is it just that magazines are increasing? I see also many of the advertising flyers increasing with less ash content.
That is the point.
Community
I wouldn't say
papers,
it is
these free newspapers.
I wouldn't. I would say that this is the most decisive thing. That it's not magazines that increase, but these flyers and advertising material that is increasing. The increasing share of the material. I would say that this is. You're totally right. This is most significant. We
More
don't
questions?
have a renaissance in newsprint.
More questions? So, thank you again, Mr. Kappen.